It's a program to grow and shape the teachers of tomorrow, even those still in high school. Marina Silva is live in Pulaski County with how the state is working to turn students into teachers. Marina?
I spoke with a student over at Richland High School who's participating in the Grow Your Own program. Now, this is a program through the state where they get to shape the teachers for tomorrow. And Richland is actually one of the schools that got a grant to keep it going.
I'm currently working as a paraprofessional at the elementary, while also being a student here at the high school.
School days are typically pretty busy for Richland senior Victoria Spearberg, but as a student, an athlete, and a member of several organizations, she's also working to become a teacher.
And I knew that I wanted to be an ag teacher. So my junior year, I did GoCAPS, which is Greater Ozark Center for Advanced Professional Studies, for their teaching profession. Now, being in this profession for them, you get your para certification by taking a test.
After passing the test, her school allowed her to be a paraprofessional at the elementary school, all part of this program that helps create teachers, especially during a national shortage. Missouri lawmakers put $2.5 million toward the program. Richland is one of several schools across the Ozarks that got a $10,000 grant.
These are districts that have been working on their programs for last year or two and now really want to do some even more creative, innovative kind of thinking.
Dr. Paul Katnick is the Assistant Commissioner of the Office of Educator Quality for the state. He says based on research, many teachers like to work where they grow up.
People who have roots in those communities and understand those communities make great teachers to come back then and teach in those communities.
And that's exactly what Victoria wants to do.
Hometown, I get to see what the different lifestyles are outside of the education. So I have friends and I have people in my family alone, a large family who lives in this small town of Richland, and being able to see how the community can come together and really pull things off is something I love about a small town.
Waynesville, Crocker, Hollister, and Hickory County R1 also got grant money. Reporting live in Pulaski County, I'm Marina Silva, KY3 News.